Would you please welcome Peter Byrne?
Hi Peter, my name's Bianca. Thanks for talking to passionpicks.com today. How are you anyway?
Not too bad, Bianca.
Just for a bit of background, in 1972, Neil Diamond recorded the live album Hot August Night at the Greek Theatre. What sort of effect did hearing this performance have on you and inspire you so much that you wanted to go on to recreate it in such an epic way?
It came about when it was the 25th anniversary. That was in 1997, because I've got a show that's been touring Australia for 23 years called Forever Diamond. Mm-hmm. And it pays tribute to 45 years of his music, all of his albums, including Hot August Night. And when I was approached in 1997, somebody said to me, listen, you know this year is the 25th anniversary of Hot August Night. Are you going to do something special? And I was not actually aware at the time that he had recorded the album with such a large orchestra. So when I looked back to the archives and did my research, I discovered Neil Diamond recorded 10 nights at the Greek Theatre in Los Angeles with a 30-piece symphony orchestra on stage. So I went, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well do it the right way. So I approached an arranger, a conductor arranger, and had Tommy and Larry Mahobreck. These were two arrangers that I approached and said, I brought a copy of Hot August Night, and I said, can you recreate this album for me on paper so that a symphony of the size of a 30-piece or 40-piece can play this music? They said they could. Obviously, it was a financial risk for me, because it wasn't something that was going to be an inexpensive thing, and it was obviously just something that I was going to have, obviously, for the rest of my life. So I went, well, okay, if I'm going to do this correctly, do it the right way. I could have stood on stage and just done it with a six-piece, but it's not the same thing. So we had all the music written, and we performed one night in Sydney's convention centre in front of 5,000 people. And that was in 1997. And I remember coming off stage at the end of that night. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I remember floating off stage at the end of that night, thinking to myself, I can't just do this and never do it again. I've spent all this money on these amazing charts. They were so well written. I've just had the Sydney Orchestra just play it so beautifully. I've got to do this every year. So the following year we went to the State Theatre in Sydney, and then the year after that, then I started to branch out we took it to Canberra, and the year after that, then we took it to Queensland, and I started to branch out around the different states. So the month became going from 2 concerts in the month to 4 concerts in the month to 6 to 8, till eventually we got to the stage where we started touring each of the states around Australia. We would use the local symphony orchestra, rehearse the show, and play the concert at some of the wonderful theatres that are located all around Australia. And that's how it came about. As I said to you, it's been a chain reaction for the last 15, 16 years.
So, I mean, rehearsing with a 30-piece orchestra, and especially a different one, sometimes in each town,
yeah.
What do you get from that? What have you learned from it as a performer? And what is that experience? Because that sounds fascinating.
Well, the first time the music was written, obviously it had to be played by some orchestra, and at that time it was the Sydney Orchestra that actually played the charts, and they read them for the first time. And like anything, you make more pencil notes are made on all the music sheets, not necessarily mistakes, but things that needed to be added and weren't necessarily added at the time of writing. We're now at the stage now where they've been played so many times that when they're put in front of somebody who plays with a symphony orchestra on a regular basis, it's just so well written, Bianca, that they just play it. They just play it as if they've read it, every year for the last 20 years. and it's beautifully played, not just by the Australian Philharmonic, but by all of the orchestras, all played just equally as well, because it's so well written. And the album, back at the time of 1972, obviously Neil Diamond had to have a similar arranger write all the music for him so that an orchestra could play it. So it's played note for note the same way it was played it's now 42 years ago.
That's impressive, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And we do have, Australia does possess some of the best symphony players in the world.
Wow. Speaking of, so you grew up in Ireland?
I grew up in Dublin, yeah.
Beautiful.
I've been living in Australia now 26 years, which is just half of my life. I'm 52.
Yeah.
Grew up in Dublin. Music influence was obviously Irish music, because that was all around us, but my father constantly played Neil Diamond and Frank Sinatra, so I did grow up with that music at home. But when I would go out, it was, very much folk songs and some of the, I guess the popular Van Morrisons back then, and the Boomtown Rats and all these other kinds of music.
Do you think the folk music really helped you to connect with Neil Diamond's music?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because it's pretty much exactly what I do on stage, Bianca, because you can hear I don't talk like him. I don't talk like Neil Diamond. I don't look like Neil Diamond. I have his voice, and with the orchestra we're going to recreate the sound, but I tell stories. And growing up, Irish people are so passionate about their music. In all their songs are storytelling songs, and Neil Diamond is very much the same. All his songs are storytelling songs of his childhood, of his adulthood, of where he's been, of the people he's met, and of the relationships he's had. So while I'm on stage performing his music with the symphony orchestras, I'm also telling life stories. So the audience are also getting a nostalgic journey through his life as we go through the night. So it's close to a 2.5-hour show. We do all the songs from the Hot August Night album. Plus we do, because we've got such a beautiful symphony orchestra on stage, we do some of his other greatest hits towards the end of the show as well.
Great, that must be great for the audience to get to hear some of their other favourite classics that aren't on the Hot August Night album. So
again with a symphony orchestra,
yeah.
I mean, and that's the other thing, Bianca. I mean that I try and explain to people when I've never, and I've really never understood it to this day, is why Neil went to all that trouble to record the album over 10 nights, but he never filmed it. So it's lucky for me, because I get to recreate it and basically let people feel what it must have been like to have been in the Greek Theatre with 5,000 people and listening to Neil sing these songs backed by a massive symphony orchestra. So I get to actually, do this, which is just so wonderful.
It must feel like an amazing opportunity to have the skills, to be able to recreate something so, and give others the opportunity to experience it.
Well, I mean, they reckon that 1 in 3 households in the Western Hemisphere have a copy of Hot August Night. When I came to Australia, and originally when I started doing is in the Hot August Night show in 1997, I was told that every barbecue played Hot August Night. Everybody's car had Hot August Night playing in the car, and that was back then. So this to me is just an amazing story to be able to go, well, now I can actually get you to experience what it must have felt like. Because I'm standing on stage and I've got a 30-piece symphony behind me, and the sound goes right through me and it goes right into the audience. And people come up to me at the end of the show and go, that was just the most amazing experience I've ever experienced in my entire life. We all at some stage should always get to experience a symphony orchestra and its sound, or the ballet, or Tchaikovsky, or Mozart. But Neil Diamond's Hot August Night album is up there with them as well, because it's something that you need to experience. Yes, you can listen to it in your car stereo, or you can blare it at home on your home stereo, but sit in an audience in a theatre or outdoors and listen to it actually live you just can't explain it.
It's something that I think one of the best things about, having this performance played today is that a lot of people who wouldn't have the opportunity to hear a 30-piece orchestra, because they may not be into classical music, they can hear it, through Neil Diamond's music and have a whole personal appreciation for it.
And his popular, I guess his popular music, it's like, the Eagles have done us. The Eagles have done concerts with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. Kiss, the band Kiss, have done their music with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. So it is an experience. It is a total experience. It takes you to a different level.
How do you feel working on such a large production? How has it influenced your performance over the years and you as a performer?
I started very late in life. Performing. I didn't start singing until I was 29. And I started off performing just on my own as a soloist, singing in bars and restaurants and pubs and all that kind of stuff. I still do that today, Bianca, and the reason why I still do it today is because I actually have a total passion for music, whether or not I'm sitting on a stool singing Irish music, or the following night know that I'm going to be performing in front of the Australian Philharmonic Orchestra. So my passion for music is totally and completely in every single bone of my body.
Yeah, well, that really comes across in the performance, because if you can do it on your own, you can do it in front of a 30
Yeah, exactly. So is it easy for me to walk out one night and be singing Irish ballads in front of, expats and Irish backpackers, to then go, tomorrow night you're playing with the Sydney Symp, for the Melbourne Symp, for the Perth Symp, for the Canberra Symp? I do get very, very nervous. But once I'm out there and I know I've got 30 very, very professional musicians behind me and a conductor controlling the whole situation, all I've got to do is just sing. But the singing comes from a higher place when you've got a symphony behind you. You literally float through 2.5 hours of music.
Wow. So,
and then you feel the energy from the audience. You feel the applause, the screaming. They recognise the tunes because they're played the way they were played on the album. So you get all that with it as well. So it's as I said, I don't know whether I'm giving you enough of an explanation as to what it feels like, but
no, I mean, I imagine
if your readers are and your viewers are people who want to experience, they need to come. They need to come and experience it.
Yeah, there's nothing like seeing it live, is there?
No, nothing.
So this will be marking the 42nd anniversary tour of Hot August Night.
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
Hard to believe.
So what, I kind of have a sense of it after hearing, some of your experiences, but what else is it that drives you? I mean, is it the production? Is it the performing? What keeps that flame going year after year of performing this amazing, iconic, historical performance live?
I mean, I'm unsure if it would feel the same way if I was doing the album every week. I do love his music. I do love his songwriting ability. I do love the way his melodies are constructed. No matter how many times, I still love singing Sweet Caroline. I still love singing Song Song Blue. I still love singing Red Red Wine and Crackling Rosy. So I don't get sick of singing those songs. But I think the fact that when I walk off on stage on this year's tour, we'll finish in New Zealand. So I walk off stage, go back to my hotel room, jump in a plane and go, there's Hot August Night done for another year. I wish it wasn't just 1 month. And I do feel that every year I feel that same way. I
guess that's a great way to keep it fresh, because if you're sort of getting tired of it.
Yeah, very much so. And as I said to you, like if somebody said to me, we want to put this show into a theatre for 12 months, would I do it? Of course I'd do it. But right now, where it's something that is, I've put together myself for the last, 15, 16 years, it's still just as enjoyable as it was when I did it first of all in 1997.
Wow. So you do Hot August Night every August. What other performances do you do, and where do you plan on going in the future?
I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, Australia does have some of the best symphony players in the world. They're as good as anywhere I've seen and anywhere I've listened to. My dream is to try and make sure that every state in Australia and everywhere that has a theatre gets to experience it.
That's great.
It's a big goal because there's lots of theatres around the country. And that's why this year is the first year we're taking it to Ballarat. This is the first year we're taking it to the Athenaeum Theatre. And as I said, I've never been to Perth before. I've never been to New Zealand before. So every year I try and make sure that we do new venues. And we get these people to experience what it must have been like.
Well, it sounds like you've got yourself a tall order, but I think you're going to do it because it's...
Yeah, well, I very much believe that I'm going to do it. As long as we can keep selling the tickets and keep getting people excited about it.
Yeah.
And I think as long as there's people around that still enjoys music. The one good thing about, I guess, today's, what do you call them, Generation Y or not, but the people, obviously Neil Diamond turned 73 this year. So the people who love his music are generally people, from 45, 50 up until people who are in the 70s and 80s. The people younger than that are relying on their parents or grandparents to have played the album or to have introduced them to the music to get them familiar with it. And lastly, the movies, today's movies or today's artists recreating his songs again. Like, my daughter hears a Neil Diamond song played in a movie, maybe by a different band, and all of a sudden it's popular again.
Yeah, well, I personally have heard Sweet Caroline be played on the show Glee, which a lot of young people watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a huge new audience for...
Yeah. And you say to a young person today, Neil Diamond wrote Red, Red Wine. They'll go, no, he didn't. UB40 did. Well, I'm sorry, Neil Diamond wrote Red, Red Wine. UB40 might have had a hit with it. Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. That's from Hot August Night, but that was made famous in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Sweet Caroline is now the Red Sox baseball team in America. That's their theme song.
Yeah. So
I'm a believer. Everybody thinks that the Monkees wrote that. They did not. Neil Diamond wrote that song and 4 other songs for the Monkees in 1968.
Well, that is something I didn't know, and there's a lot to learn about Neil Diamond and his music, other than just appreciating, what we hear, because that's very
exactly. Solitary Man was re-recorded by Chris Isaak a few years ago. Johnny Cash re-recorded it. Elvis Presley recorded Sweet Caroline. I mean, it's, and on it goes, and people don't re-record these songs because they want to add an extra song onto their album. They re-record these songs because they know they're good songs.
Well, it sounds like, Neil Diamond has some timeless songs that people of any age can really listen to and appreciate, and when it's done in front of a 30-piece orchestra, they can take the full energy of it. But yeah, so thank you for talking to passionpicks.com today.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for listening to me.
I've learned a lot and I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Touching me.